So in this lesson, we're going to get into 3D tracking, and we're going to be starting with doing some cleanup work, both using planar tracking techniques and 3D tracking techniques. If I have my viewer set to my read node, I'm going to put my pull down here to the plate shot so I can take a look at the plate shot. And I'm going to go ahead and hit play. Make sure your input is set to input here so we can kind of see, and I can use my middle mouse scroll wheel to back up here. You can also hit the letter I for input and drag your cursor over here and hit the letter O for output, and then just drag left click and drag your input and outputs here if you wish. And I could just hit play and take a look at our footage. So I want to make this a very Blade Runner-esque background with some monitors. I've already rendered the CG for you, but I also want to clean this guy up. I want to get him out of the shot. The problem being is I can't planar track this area here because first off the guy is moving, and second off he's actually, the area that I want to clean up is actually going off frame during the shot. And that usually dictates that you should be doing a 3D track way of cleaning up. If he was relatively still and I can get a decent plane, I could actually track this with planar tracking and clean him up. In fact, you could probably get away with planar tracking and clean this guy up, but I want to demonstrate both techniques, you know, as far as like the cleanup process. Most professionals would tell you that if you can, use planar tracking for cleanup, as opposed to doing 3D tracking, because you can get all types of problems with 3D tracking. But in this case, we're cornered. We have to actually do a 3D track. So we're going to be doing a lot of different practices in here. We're going to also do some smart vector work with his fluttering jacket here. You can see he's got a series of like wrinkles on his jacket and so forth. There's all types of cleanup we can do on Blue's face, although Blue is a good-looking dude. He is definitely someone that we can just test out for cosmetic purposes. So again, just be aware that throughout this whole process, we're trying to show off many different ways of doing things in here. So with that said, we are going to first come in here and shuffle out this pass. Now, as you can see, there is a lot of information in here, and we don't want to have all this bogging us down as we move down the pipe. So I'm going to go back to RGBA, which is the main channel. Here you can see our CG. I'm going to add a shuffle node, and I'm going to shuffle out a specific pass here. So I'm going to take the shuffle node, and we're going to redirect, click here, I'm going to redirect the plate shot to go into RGB. So if I put my viewer to the shuffle now you can see if I hit the letter R, G, and B with my cursor up here, you can see different channels. If I go to A for alpha, it's black. So I want to actually make sure that the alpha channel is solid white, so we don't have a transparent alpha. And now you can see if I hit R, G, B, and A, we're good to go. If I take a look at my viewer so far through here and see I still have all of these different passes, what I want to do is use what's called a remove node. So you can see we're going to say remove all. So we removed all the channels. We can choose keep, which will just keep a specific channel. And what channels I'm going to keep? I'm going to keep the RGBA. So now if I take a look through this channel, all we have is RGBA, and we're not, as we go down the pipe, actually calculating out all these extra passes. We will be using these other passes to do the CG a little bit later, but as of right now, that's not the case. All right, so you guys have probably taken my intro to course, and you've probably done some tracking work, so you're probably in the zone as far as understanding this. The first thing we need to do is make a roto node, which we could use the letter O. And we need to isolate out anything that is moving, whether it's reflection, shadows, or people in the shot, because we do not want to have them included into the track. So I'm going to go ahead and make a roto with my Bezier. And you can see it's set a key at 43. I'm going to back up. Oops, let me go ahead and delete that. I'm going to go ahead and say select all, grab this. And what I like doing is holding control and just, because we're going to be basically moving, the camera's moving in and out in the shot. In this case, I'm just going to move this over so that Blue takes a sip of his coffee. This doesn't have to be perfect, as I've talked about before in many of my other tutorials. Again, I highly recommend that you go through my Intro to Nuke course before taking the endeavor of this class, but if you feel like you're up for a challenge, I would say you could possibly make it through alive if you're a relatively intelligent person. This gives you a good feel for a lot of different things. Like I said, we're going to introduce a whole series of things that are desperately needed, a lot of cosmetic type work that's going to be a lot of fun. And I found that this is a great lesson to this specific shot here. I kind of favored it a lot, and I was like, oh man, this is a nice shot. I think I should make a tutorial on it to get people involved in here. Like I said, I do have a training video coming up that's going to do a really heavy Vista Blade Runner-esque environment using Blackmagic 4K Pocket and a Metabone Speed Booster and all the goodies, and then we're going to go through the whole pipeline of the DaVinci Resolve Studio or whatever the heck it is. So I'm really excited about the full online process and also coming in here. Now you'll notice that I'm having an issue here, and this is common. Sometimes this happens where if I hit play, I'm not updating. See that? But if I scrub, it's actually updating. So I don't know if that's just a glitch for this specific program. I hope it isn't. But anyway, sometimes you get that glitch. All right, so I've isolated out my buddy here, and let's go over here, and I guess I'll use a ellipse, and we'll get this guy out. Again, we are just basically masking the areas that we know to be things that are moving in the shot, and we cannot allow those things to be incorporated into the 3D track because they will confuse the actual system here. So I'm going to go ahead and put that there, and there, and there, there. Okay. Alrighty. And I didn't have to get too crazy with this, as you can see. So the first thing we're going to do is remove lens distortion. Now, this was shot relatively wide-angle lens, and because of that, there is a certain bow here going on the footage. You can kind of see a little bit of it in here. It's hard to define if any of these are real straight lines or not, but there is a bowing effect, and that's because the actual lens itself is cylindrical. So that introduces sort of like a non-linear reality, you know, but everything in computers are basically linear. So if I were to hit the tab key, you can see, again, in my perspective view here, you can see we got perfect straight perspective lines in the 3D mode. But in the real world, there's a little bit of an introduced curvature near the edges of the frame because of lens distortion from the capturing from a spherical lens. And that's specifically true when it comes to wide-angle lenses, anything from 12 millimeter to 35 to 40 millimeter, you're going to get a little bit of that. When you get into lenses above 50 millimeter, you really don't have that issue, but then you'll start to get like a pin cushion effect. So what we have to do is take the lens distortion out so that we get perfect straight perspective lines. And what I mean that is barrel lens distortion. There's always going to be a perspective warp in millimeter lenses, where something might look square in the center, and as you move it off to the side, it might turn into a stretched rectangle. That's normal, but what has to be removed is this curve or bow that occurs on the outside of the plane here. So there is a brand new lens distortion node inside of this program. You can see it's got grid detection and so forth. We do not have a grid for this circumstance. I will be demonstrating this in my future tutorials. But as of right now, we're going to use the old school lens distortion node. Again, to get to that, you have to go to the other all plugins update, and then hit tab, and then type lens distortion, and then you'll see lens distortion L. Okay, and lens distortion L is the old school lens distortion node. And in this circumstance, and I'm going to use image analysis to do this. So I'm going to plug in this here. You'll see it opens up the option for a mask. I'm going to plug in the mask, and you can see this roto is outputting an alpha input. So we want to do the output alpha of the mask to actually mask out the areas where these guys are at. So I'm going to go to lens distortion node. I'm going to say mask. I'm going to use to the mask input and use mask alpha. And with that said, we are going to say it's free camera, and we're going to analyze the image. And you can see just very clearly that this guy is not getting tracked. Blue is not getting tracked. It's going to basically establish and understand if any type of bowed lens distortion is going to remove it for us. We're not actually tracking the shot yet for 3D. We're tracking it, but trying to establish any sort of bowing effect along the edges. So what it does is it compares these tracked points, and if it sees like a bowing progressively through the shot, it'll remove it for us. So again, we just got to let this thing play through and give it some time. I'm going to hit pause. Like I said, if we did have any straight perspective lines, we could have used the line analysis mode, which I've demonstrated in many other tutorials. I believe in my intro Nuke 101 course I talk about it. There are 3 different ways to do it. The best way would have been to shoot a grid, like a line grid of a series of black thin lines, sort of like tic-tac-toe, and just fill that up with the frame. Again, every lens is different. It's the glass has been molded different, so it's never perfect, and we have to basically take that out. So now, if I put my camera to the lens distortion node, you'll see we get a shrink in. See that? So that bowing that has occurred on the outside is now been removed. So now we can see we got perfect straight perspective lines. And it's a real subtle thing. Sometimes this will actually expand out. Sometimes it will expand in, depending on what you got. And when you expand in, which to me is a preferred method, the computer gets to decide whether or not that happens. You can see that you have these repeated pixels along the edges here. So don't worry about that. We're eventually going to redistort our CG rendered either through scanline render or the CG that we rendered already to redistort, which is going to pull it back like that. Okay. So we have the lens distortion basically, or the barrel lens distortion removed. Now we can actually physically track this shot. So I am going to come in here and do a camera tracker. And you can see we have camera tracker 3D is the one we want to get now. So I'm going to plug that in. I'm going to plug in the same mask again for this. And in this case, we are going to choose, again, mask alpha for the input. And camera, let's see, look at camera motion. We've got free camera. The lens distortion is currently taken out. We have a unknown constant millimeter lens. The film back preset, this is using a Sony A6300 camera. So I'm going to make a custom film back size. This is your actual sensor size, which we can find online. And again, we've done this before. We just do a quick search inside of Google, and you can see the size is in millimeters, 23.5 by 15.6. So let's go ahead and throw that in there. So 23.5 and 15.6. Okay, now the last thing I'm worried about is the fact that we might actually track these repeated pixels on the edge. So I'm going to go back into my roto node really quick and take a look at it. If you hit the letter A for alpha, you can see the alpha information being kind of cut in here. So what I think I'm going to do is take this roto node here and create a rectangle. And I will just draw out a rectangle like that. And just get it. It doesn't have to be perfect here, but I want to make sure I don't allow for the incorporation of those others. So I'm going to go ahead and put that right there. And let's see if I can change up the compositing mode on this specific shape. So you can see here, blending mode. This is over. And what I want to do is I want to get white on the outside, which I don't think is not going to be able to pull off. Let's see. Yeah, we're not going to be able to pull it off. So I think what I'm going to do is I'll put this back to over again. And I'm just going to have to do a little bit of work. There's other quick ways of doing this. I'm sure people are like, well, why don't you just do this? So I'm just going to take a couple shapes here. And kind of get, this is just careful. You really don't have to do this, but I'm just going to go ahead and make a couple shapes for that area there. Because again, like I talked about, if I go here, it's back to my lens distortion node here. And I'll put my viewer to the lens distortion node, go back to RGB. You can see that we have those repeated pixels there. And I got to be careful because I don't want to actually go too far, because really the most important data is along the edge here. So let me just make sure I get these edges. This is a tricky and fun part, right? So I just want to go about that far. I don't want to go too far where I'm like, okay, I'm kind of losing the precious information on the edges here. So I think that's good. And this guy could probably get moved down a little bit. There we go. So now if I take a look at the roto and I hit the A for alpha here, you can see the areas of white are going to be excluded from the track. And I'm just very, very picky about this sort of stuff. I just want to make sure that these areas will not have tracking points locked onto, because when you have a repeated pixel here, you could actually get a lot of weird data along the edge. it's best to omit it. So with all of these setups ready to go, we're going to go ahead and I'll hit the A button here, and let's go ahead and track the shot. So I'll hit track. And as you can see, it's not touching those edges. It's not putting any key points on blue or this guy over here in the corner. And we're getting a pretty decent track right now. So I'll just hit pause until it's finished. All right, so as you can see through the scrubbing of the shot, we have these all these little squiggly lines. We haven't had a solve yet because we have amber tracks. So we're going to go ahead and solve the shot, and we'll just hit solve right now. So when you get a solve, you'll get three types of tracks. You'll get amber tracks, where the computer thought this was not worth including into the track, and then anything that's red or green is involved in the track. And then the red ones are just saying they have higher error rates. So you can see error rate's 2.7. The number you want to look at is this number right here, which is currently 0.74. Okay, so if this is at 1.0 or less, you've got industry standard tracking. In other words, it's solid enough to actually not have to do any culling on the points. But just to be safe, we can come over here to our actual setup. And under max error max, if I just come over here to auto tracks, I can just click here and hold down Control on error max. I can take the max error down, and it's basically a limbo bar. I talked about this before, where if you bring it low, anything above is going to be taken out or deleted once I hit the button delete rejected. When I hit delete unsolved, that's going to get rid of all the amber tracks, which are really doing nothing right now except, you know, getting in our way. But anything under delete rejected will be delete the points above. And again, I really don't have to go too crazy with this. Probably 4 is fine. I'll say delete rejected, so all the red points will be gone. I'm already in the safe zone, as I mentioned. I'm below 1.0 on the error rate. All right, so now that I've taken out those, let's resolve or update the solve real quick and hit OK. And voila, we have an error rate currently 0.7, which is really great, and a per frame error rate of 0.57. So that is really solid. That's really good stuff. So at this point, we need to orientate our scene, and we don't have a lot to go by in regards to orientation on here. I can choose any one of these points and make it the origin. So for instance, I could take this point here, right-click, and say Set to Origin. And I'm going to go ahead and take this point, and, well, let's see, not that point. Let's see. I got to find 2 points that are basically in the real world up and down. So I would say, it's hard to say. I would say maybe these 2 points here are straight up and down. So I'm going to shift select those two, ground plane, set Y. So I'm setting the Y up and down direction, and then now I could choose whether the Z or X. Doesn't really matter which one. So I'm going to grab this point and try to grab 2 points that I know are like on Z or the X. Those are, choose your, pick your poison, Z or X. So I'm going to right click and say Set Z. Now if I come over here and to the camera tracker node, I'm going to export out scene and say create. So this creates camera tracker points, the camera, and the scene. So if you take a look at the camera, it has given it a focal length of 33 millimeter, which is probably correct because we shot, I think, somewhere around a 16 millimeter, and of course, as you're well aware, considering the focal length and so forth, or actually, no, that might be right because this is incorporating the focal length, so I don't have to double up the focal length. There is a 1.6 crop factor ratio, but that's about right, 33 millimeters. Okay, so to see all this information, first off, you definitely want to go here and go under Edit Project Settings. Oh, I'm sorry, Edit Preferences. And you want to come to Viewer Handles and make sure you're operating in the Maya 3D control type. Now, if you like the new control type, or Houdini, or Lightwave, or Moto, go ahead and choose those. But I prefer Maya. And if I hit the Tab key, I'm in 3D mode. So if I hold down Alt and move around here and right mouse button drag up and down, I can move around in 3D mode. If I hit down Alt middle mouse button and drag left and right. By the way, if you don't have a actual 3-button mouse, go and buy one right now. Alright, so with that said, we need to put our viewer to the scene node because we are kind of like behind in the history here. So I'll put my viewer to C node here. And you can see with the little bit of orientation work we did, we have a pretty good alignment here. I like using the letters Z, X, and C to see how things look. So I'll start out, like in this case, it's Z, X, and C are basically, you know, basically X, Y, and Z viewpoints. So there's a top, bottom, left, and right. So to know whether or not you align this stuff correctly, I'll hit the letter C as in cat. And I will come over here to my camera tracker node, and this under the C node, under rotate XYZ, we can actually do a little bit of tweaking. So if I just take the rotate Z, you can see that's not, I'm not going to touch that yet, but if I do rotate Y, so I'm looking above, you'll start to feel out whether or not this is orientated correctly. And I would say we got it down. So if you didn't get it down, if it was like off like that, you might want to rotate this just a little bit. So let's go to another view here. I'll do the X view here. And you can see that, let's see here, this doesn't look, I could be wrong, I might be wrong, I don't know, we'll see. If you can see, it kind of looks slightly slanted here. So that's using the Z key, and the Z key is basically the X direction, or I'm sorry, not X direction, the Z direction. So you can see I might need to rotate this to orientate it to the real world space like that. And let's go to the C key. The C key, and just by rotating, in this case the X, you'll get a feel. Let me hit X and go, hit X, and then now I'm going to go to my rotate Y. I can't do that. Sorry, rotate X. You can see, I think we got that right on the money. So now if I just go back to my default camera here, I just click default, hold down Alt and move around. This should feel like it's orientated to real world space. You can see that this is the wall, and these points have actually inherited the color information from the actual plate shot. So it is looking pretty solid. Now, I can't verify it's solid unless I start building in some geometry. So let's go ahead and make a model builder node. And we'll bring a model builder geometry node in. We'll put the source footage, which is the undistorted footage right there. In fact, let's just go ahead and rename this lens distortion node the undistorted plate. And we'll come over here to the model builder node. We put the source in. The camera is obviously this, and we'll put our viewer to the model builder node. We will make sure we are looking through the camera and we are locked to the camera. Important that you do this, otherwise it will not work. So just by looking through the shot, if I go ahead and hit play, everything feels like it's tracking well. We don't have any bouncing. If we did, we had a bad track and we got to go back and do some tracking. But you can see if I just let this cache through, we're getting a pretty good result. The orientation might be off in this direction. We're going to find out right now. And the way I find out is building out a piece of geometry and letting the model builder node interpolate that geometry, and that'll tell me if I need to change up my orientation one last time. So under shape defaults, I'm going to put my cards to 1 to 1. So I only have one division in my card. I'm going to click over here to the card and a left mouse drag the card out. So I'm going to try to find something that's relatively square that I know in the scene. So I am currently in alignment mode. So you will see a yellow point on top of a purple point at all 4 corners of your scene. If the purple point sways away from the actual point itself, you know, like for instance, you can see as I pull this, the yellow point and the purple point are moving away from each other, but as I kind of get this set up, as they start to get on top of each other, the computer's telling me that you're actually headed in the right direction. When the two are separate, you can almost see it right here. As I move that over here, the computer's actually telling me that's probably where you want to be. It kind of knows the interpolation of the triangulation already. So now that I've done that, I have it at frame 57, and I have to create some parallax. So I actually took a step back when I filmed this. So I'm going to move forward here, and I'm just going to click one of these points. You're going to be constrained to a line, and you just want to kind of move it back and forth along the line until it fits in the right place three-dimensionally. So now you can see if I hit play, we have something that is really good. Now if I want to play this back relatively quickly, I could switch over to 1 to 2 here to get a quick feedback on this. I don't know if it'll render any faster. That looks correct, but the question is, how did this actually get created in 3D space? And if this thing is on a slant, we know we have to adjust our rotations a little bit. to actually match up with world space. We want to orientate our scene to world space as best as we possibly can. So again, if you just take a look at the footage, it's looking pretty good. So again, I'm going to hit X and Z, and lo and behold, you can see that this piece of geometry is actually orientated wrong. So it's sort of telling us that we need to take the camera and rotate it a little bit. So again, I will take this and feed it into my model builder node here and put my viewer to the scene node. And you can kind of see how the points are, they're making sense. They're properly rotated correctly. So I'm going to go back to my camera tracker node, and I'm going to take my rotate Z, and I'm probably going to put this back to, well, it looks like I'm going to have to rotate a little bit more here. Probably something like that. Okay, so now that I've done that, I've basically done a bit of a 5-degree turn there. I think I'll put it at -9 here. I'm going to have to redraw this again, so I'm going to go back to my model builder node, put my camera through to my model builder node, look through my camera, lock to my camera. I'm going to take this actual piece of geometry in here by double-clicking the model builder node, going to the model builder tab, taking the card, deleting it. I'm going to draw it out again. I'm going to do the same thing again, unfortunately. So again, this will take only a few seconds. I'm just going to throw this over here. Throw that there, throw that there. You can see the little yellow points kind of telling me what to do, giving me a little bit of help. See, this is probably telling me I need to move this up here. And this guy should be over here. You can see the 2 points are separate from each other. So there's obviously something that needs to be kind of situated in here. It's going to be hard for it to kind of figure out. So now that I've done that, I'm going to move forward a little bit, and then I just take any one of the 4 corners and drag it until it lines up to where it should be, and then I could just kind of finagle these other points a little bit, like that, and so forth. So now if I go ahead and play back the footage, it looks like it's actually doing pretty good. Again, I'm going to hit the letter Z, X, and C, and you can see we are slowly getting somewhere. See that? If I look from the top view, the computer's trying to tell me that I need to rotate my camera basically counterclockwise. So I'm going to go back to my camera tracker node here, and I'm going to rotate it in the Y direction. Probably a couple degrees like that. So for 2 degrees. Once again, I come back to my actual model builder node, looking through it. Go to default here for the setting here. I'm going to take the card and delete it. With that card deleted, I'm going to look through the camera again with the model builder node viewed through. I'm going to lock to the camera. I'm going to do the same thing, probably for the last time, hopefully. And we're going to just orientate this. So I'm going to go ahead and get this in here. Get this over here. And I like to do this relatively quick. The more you move these points around, the more it kind of gets lost. It's like, I don't know what you're doing. It's trying to help you out. It's just kind of say that. There we go. So then I'll drag across, and then you just take any 4-corner point, drag it down till it matches. And then you could, maybe move these other points. You can go to the 3rd key if you wish, and just kind of get it lined up like that. There we go. So now I'm going to hit X, Z, and C, and you can see already that this is really looking like it's on the money, almost. You can see we probably could rotate this by a single degree from a different, let's see here. I think we're pretty close though. You can see that if I take a look at the piece of geometry, it's good to go. So again, do I need to get that picky? Not necessarily. I just like to orientate things to world space. Some people might have avoided the last couple of steps I did and left it sort of rotated wrong. That's fine, but again, I just prefer to work the best I can here. All right, so with that said, in the next lesson, we are going to take this and start extruding the geometry. And again, you want to double check this by looking through the camera, by locking to the camera, looking through the model builder node and just making sure that this thing is sticking on that piece of geometry. And the only way you're going to know it is if you let it cache. So I have to wait till it caches through, and now I can take a look at it, and that's looking pretty solid. See, it's a decent orientation. Not perfect, but it is what it is. So in the next lesson, we're actually going to come in here and do some extrusions and build out this geometry. We basically have to build the geometry out that is basically behind this guy. Anything in front of this guy will have to be foreground rotoed with a actual 2D planar track. But in regards to the ground, such as if I go ahead and still frame this at frame 90, we need to recreate this as a 3D mesh. This is a 3D mesh. The wall back here is a 3D mesh, and possibly the ceiling, but I don't think we're going to need to do that. So I will see you in the next lesson on that.